Life has its ways of throwing lemons at us. My guest in this episode survived a ruptured brain aneurysm and subarachnoid hemorrhage, a life-threatening experience that shaped both his career and his creative voice. Andrew was also a caregiver to his mother during her battle with ALS, and today he brings deep empathy and insight to his work as a mental health counselor. We are going to talk about resilience, creativity, and purpose. Welcome to the Minute Mastering Podcast, a conversational productivity and time management podcast where busy authors and entrepreneurs are inspired to create time for what truly matters. I'm your host, Ngozi Edema. I'm a time management coach, writer, and entrepreneur. Here, you are encouraged to turn your minutes into milestones and to create at least 1 hour a day working on your goals without feeling overwhelmed. And since you are here, hello, mamas and papas in the house. Are you looking for the next book for that special kid in your life? Here's a book recommendation for you. Meet Freddy in Freddy and the Veggies, an adventure where veggies are superheroes, fun, colorful, and the parent's secret weapon. Say goodbye to veggie battles at the table because in Freddy and the Veggies, kids discover that healthy eating can be an exciting adventure. They can still hang out with their sweet friends too. Fun characters and lively illustrations available in the Kindle store and on paperback formats. So, my guest today is someone who keeps striving to push his goals and do stuff in spite of the problems that he has been through in life. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thank you. It's really wonderful to be here.
Yeah. So we just want to talk about you because, like I said, you are a story in resilience and someone who keep pushing in spite of difficulties in life. So what has the ruptured brain aneurysm recovery been like for you? Because it must have been a difficult situation for you.
Yes. Well, to give you some context, an aneurysm can happen anywhere on the body. Typically, it's when a blood vessel breaks or ruptures. It's sort of like if you're putting air in a tire and it gets too inflated and it bursts because there's too much pressure. So I had that happen on my brainstem. I was at the time I was about to board a plane. So it happened when I was walking on the jetway to get to the plane. I was really lucky that none of it was painful, which a lot of people will talk about having the worst headache they've ever had in their life. For me, the floor just started to move and I fell. So fortunately, first responders could get to me and I was able to be taken to the hospital. The first year or so was mostly just focused on the physical recovery, gaining back my endurance, being able to do tasks. Originally, I had to walk with a cane. I had double vision, so I wore an eye patch. And these things healed for the most part after the first year. So it's been about 7 years. I still have a little bit of difficulty with my balance. It's not anything that's going to prevent me from doing anything, but I will notice sometimes I don't feel fully secure. And if I move my head from side to side, I have to wait for my vision to settle. So it's sort of like those bobblehead dolls where the head keeps, moving like this. So if I go into 180, I have to wait a second for my vision to finally focus. The good thing is I don't get nauseous. So I've just adapted to it as being part of my life. What turned out to be very difficult was more of the emotional recovery. I have difficulty processing emotions these days. So things that would have caused me great joy, where I would feel a rush in my chest or overwhelmed to the point where I would cry, typically don't have the same impact. So that's taken a while to feel comfortable with. So it's been a lot of work to try and recognize that this is going to be similar to my old life in a lot of ways. I will still care about some of the same things and I will still react as I used to. Some things are going to be very different, But I've also allowed for that change. So in some ways, I've experienced new opportunities, and in other ways, it's been very overwhelming. But I've been able to use it to my advantage, I feel. I hope that answered your question.
It does, but it also gives me insight into how much work you put in your writing, because writing involves creativity and it involves a clear mind, and you need to be stable like everywhere. Your entire well-being must be stable for you to be able to write. So what has your writing process been like? What has helped you to carry on writing in spite of your difficulties, your challenges?
Well, I'm extremely fortunate that I don't have any cognitive difficulties. I have a lot of friends who've had brain injuries who are really limited in what they can do. Many of them can only work for about a half an hour or an hour at times, and then they need to take a break because they're too overstimulated. I'm really lucky that I didn't have any changes. So for me, mostly it was about finding joy in the process of writing, not necessarily what would happen to it. Previously, I was really focused on trying to publish my work. That was the goal. It was always about writing something and then submitting it and seeing what would happen. And lately, I've focused more on the process of writing as an enjoyable thing. And if it ever gets read by anybody or if it gets published, that's great. But that doesn't have to happen for it to be a wonderful time.
Thank you. So have you been writing before this incident?
Yeah, I had gone to school for creative writing, so I got a master's degree in that, and then I was teaching. But my goal was always I have been writing for the last 25, 30 years in various, either screenplays or plays, or eventually it would be short stories, and then recently novellas. But writing had always been a really important part of my life as a creative output. It wasn't until 2019 that my first book was going to come out. Just before I had written it just before the aneurysm. So one of the interesting things during the first year of my recovery was I would discover whether I still could write, if I still had the ability. Um, so I ended up writing a crime fiction book that would sort of be the test. My goal wasn't to see if it could get published, it was just to see if I could still do it. So I drew upon um, a lot of very personal elements that I thought would just be fun to write about. And then it ended up being something that I eventually published anyway. And that was sort of an indication that I still could do it.
Well done. So how did your experience as a caregiver? Now you mentioned that you were a caregiver to your mom when she was battling ALS. Was that before or after you had the brain aneurysm?
So I had my aneurysm in 2018. And my mother was officially diagnosed in 2022, so 4 years later. She had had symptoms before that, but she had been misdiagnosed. Um, and eventually in 2023, uh, she began to need 24-hour care. So that's when I moved back in with my parents to help out. One of the interesting silver linings of the aneurysm, because I don't get emotionally overwhelmed, it was actually easier to help take care of my mother during the more difficult times because I didn't have to worry about being emotionally overwhelmed. So, in that regard, it actually became a benefit. I missed out on certain fun times that I couldn't process as easily, but I didn't have to deal with the really difficult, overwhelming times of being a caregiver to someone who has what's essentially a terminal illness. So that turned out to be a really much of what's happened to me over the last couple of years has been interesting in that it seemed to line up neatly. Um, I originally had thought I would start my own family one day. And after the aneurysm, it's become difficult to make emotional connections with people. So I thought perhaps that might not be part of my life anymore. If I had started my own family, I probably wouldn't have been able to move back in with my parents to take care of my mother. So a lot of things that seemed difficult or unfair turned out to be really helpful with a different perspective.
I'm glad that you saw lemonade in spite of the lemons that came your way. You see a point where you can look back and say, well, in as much as I would have loved it this way, but I still had it good somehow. Yeah, it worked out for your goals somehow. But how did that influence your approach to counseling and storytelling? Because that's what you do now. You counsel people and you tell stories. So how does that experience influence you?
Well, I took a grief counseling class when I was in school, and there was a really interesting video we watched where the one of the characters was physically in a hole, and another character was looking down into the hole, saying, "How can I help you?" And they kept offering different things like, "Well, I can give you a sandwich, or I can give you things, or I can," but none of what they offered actually helped. And then a different person came by and said, "I can't really do anything, but I can climb down into the hole with you and stay with you until you feel more comfortable handling things." So being a caregiver and dealing with my recovery has really helped me to understand what someone might need while they're dealing with difficulty. Most of us try to solve problems that if someone is having a difficult time, we think, what can I do that will help make the problem go away? And with something like grief or sometimes just emotions, it's very difficult to make the problem go away. So sometimes it's just helpful to be present. So that's really what helped both with my writing or relationships or counseling or being a caregiver was just recognizing that sometimes the most important thing is to just be present and listen.
That's what most of us need. Not necessarily solution, but we want someone to listen to tell you, "Oh, I've got your back."
Mhm.
Yeah. So that is so helpful, and you are experiencing that, so you can feel what other people are feeling, and makes you a better counselor because you've been through the process, you've seen it all, you know what it means for people to listen to you, just be present for you, so you can do that for somebody else. Hey, busy moms, writers, and entrepreneurs, are your days running you instead of the other way around? If you've ever wished for a little more structure, sanity, and space to focus on what really matters, this is for you. Between school drop-offs, client meetings, laundry, deadlines, and dinner prep, it's easy to feel like there's never enough time. But what if your day started with clarity instead of chaos? Introducing my new daily planner designed to help you plan your day with purpose. This is what it contains: time blocking sessions so you know where your hours are going, meal planning pages to avoid the 5 p.m. dinner scramble, built-in self-care and gratitude space so you don't come last, grocery lists and weekly layout to simplify your weekends. Say goodbye to scattered to-do lists and say hello to focus, intentional days. Grab your printable daily planner today and start showing up for your goals, one intentional day at a time. In what ways has surviving a near-death experience shaped your outlook on time and priorities? Because nobody knows what the next minute will bring. So if we waste the time that we have now, the next minute we might not have the energy all the time to do what we need to do.
Yeah, it's been an interesting change, certainly. I don't necessarily feel like there's anything that I need to accomplish anymore. I used to think all the time that there was something that I'm missing that's out there somewhere and I need to find it or I need to do it or I need to accomplish it. And now I sort of realize that I have everything I might need and it's more just about cultivating that. And I tend to prioritize what's going to allow me to feel fulfilled. Obviously, if you do something enjoyable, the hope is that it will make you happy, but you have more control over doing something that will make you feel fulfilled, even if it's not that enjoyable of an experience. So I try to prioritize. Also, the aneurysm has really helped me to change my perspective about what I find to be important. At this point, I would rather spend time with friends and family than possibly doing something else. So that's allowed me to shift the priorities in that way. And I think for everyone, it's different, but really it just comes down to fulfillment. What at the end of the day, what are you going to be proud of having done? And sometimes you need to listen to your body. If your body tells you, well, you know what, today I think I might need a nap. And even though I had that list of 5 things I need to do, it's become more important in the moment for me to take a nap right now and be mindful of my self-care. And I think being comfortable with the uncertainty of everything is really helpful.
Thank you. So you wear many hats. You are a podcaster, you are a writer, you are a counselor, you also volunteer. So how do you manage your time and energy across so many roles?
Well, that's how I stay fulfilled, is by doing all of these things. I think a lot of people choose to find things to occupy their time, and they have difficulty juggling all of those things. For me, I'm really aware of how to structure my day to make sure that I'm able to manage all of those things at once. It took some time and reflecting to be able to figure all of that out. When I was taking care of my mother and living with my parents, I had a lot of downtime to be able to figure out those sorts of things. So that's how I'm able to do it. I think for everyone, it's going to look different. I will often tell clients that usually your day consists of structured time when you're at work and you're told what to do. And then you have unstructured time that's sort of up to you. And some people need for that to be extremely regimented, where they have every single hour planned and they just need to follow that list. Other people can decide, I'm going to see how I feel today. So ultimately, it really comes down to how you operate. Do you need guidance? Are you self-sufficient? Once you figure that out, it's a little bit easier to manage your time.
Okay. So what advice will you give to anyone who is presently navigating personal trauma and is trying to stay creative?
Well, so for trauma or recovery or anything like that, I would say that will happen on its own time. So just to be open to the possibilities. Often recovery goes in a spiral. So there's moments where you feel like you're giving up all the progress you've made, but you're still headed in the direction you want to go. I used to have a Post-it note at my desk that read Rome wasn't built in a day, that I would consult all the time because I would feel like I wasn't making enough progress. Often we can't gauge the progress we've made until enough time has gone by. So it helps to have other people that you can count on for support to point out how much progress you've made. In terms of being creative or with writing, what I always used to tell my students is try to be able to be creative in any environment. I think some people need for there to be certain parameters, like I need complete silence, I need to be at my desk, I need to drink a cup of coffee, I need to listen to this song. And the more you can allow for changes, subtle changes, like perhaps one day try to write in a coffee shop, one day try to write without music, one day, and the more you can condition yourself to any circumstance, the more opportunity you'll have.
Thank you. I like the quotes on Rome was not built in a day. I always add that, but they kept laying bricks. And once you're laying bricks every day, you may not see the results. You don't ever see the result in one day, but over time, you see that you now have a full building.
Sure.
Because you have been laying the bricks. Yeah. So, yeah. Keep working consistently and eventually you'll see the results. Andrew, thank you very much for sharing your story, your strengths, and your strategy that has helped you to cope with the problems that life threw at you. And for those of you listening to this episode, please check out this episode's show notes and YouTube description. We've included all the links where you can connect with Andrew, find his writing, and tune into his podcast, The Happy Hour with Heather and Guests. Until next time, remember, even a few focused minutes can move you miles closer to your next milestone. Keep mastering the minutes. Thanks for tuning in to the Minute Mastery Podcast. If you have found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who could use more encouragement in their day. And remember to subscribe and leave us a review. Until next time, you are in control of your time and you've got this.